Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Viva Piñata by Rare. Somehow, farming has become all the rage. Just talk to all the hopeless addicts playing Farmville on Facebook instead of caring for their children who rely on them for nourishment and shelter. Sure, farming and ranching aren't exactly new ideas to gaming. Just see the Super Nintendo classic Harvest Moon for a good demonstration of what's been around for a while. But in 2006, Rare had an interesting concept that came way out of left field. Instead of raising cows and chickens to sell off for money or to gather product from, you could raise piñatas? It sounds like something that the guys who scripted Star Wars would come up with. Wookiees and Jawas? Come on. But despite the wacky idea, it clearly fetched enough attention to keep the series going, as multiple titles followed and a TV show was even developed because of it. Attention aside, however, was Viva Piñata a good enough game to warrant the following it's attained? In Viva Piñata, there isn't really any story. The concept is just to entice wayward piñatas to want to come settle in your garden. There are some lesser devices that are used, but not to any real storytelling effect. If you want to think of it another way, each one of your piñatas has their own story, complete with romance, interests, and danger. The game's piñatas all have clever names associated with candy to keep them a little steeped in reality. Sparrowmints, mousemellows, and syrupints are just some of the witty tagged species of piñata. There is more to the game than just the piñatas, though. Several merchants and other helpers stop by from time to time, helping you to expand your garden. Also, as your garden expands and you gain access to a wider variety of piñatas, Piñata Central might call upon you to supply some of your creatures for a showing. Viva Piñata is, luckily, a pretty simple game to get a grasp of. At first. Because of the wide variety of piñatas and the expansive size that you can make your garden, though, things can wind up getting pretty hectic. The first thing you have to do is take an old lot and make it into an appealing garden. You won't be able to tempt any wayward piñatas unless you have something they want. At first, this may be as basic as making sure there is enough grass covering your garden, but as time goes on, you might notice that the piñata's needs become a little more complicated. Every individual species of piñata has needs, which apply to whether or not they will visit your garden, then become residents, and even later on, mate. It's up to you to fulfill those needs. Sometimes there are hard choices associated with those needs. It's difficult to convince yourself to allow one of your piñatas to eat another, but it's all just part of the donut of life. Once you've satisfied your piñata's desires, you can have them reproduce, providing you with another colorful creature. To do that, however, you need to go through a generally harmless minigame. All is not rainbows and flutterscotches, though. You have to be on the lookout for Professor Pester and his ruffians, who only wish to do harm to your garden. There are also sour piñatas, who are usually a bit of a pain to handle. Viva Piñata is a rarity on Microsoft's console. For the most part, Xbox 360 games have a lot of grit and grime to them. Gears of War and even Fable have a mature darkness to them that lies on Viva Piñata's polar opposite. However, even though there is an almost childish presentation on the surface, once you get past that, you realize that it's just fresh paint on a mean machine. Viva Piñata has a lot of different sets of fluid animation going on at one time, and in spite of that, everything functions meticulously together. With all the different breeds of piñata, there are a lot of noises that could go on at once, but everything remains fairly distinct. This is especially helpful later on when things become hectic with so many different species of piñata vying for a spot in your garden. Voice and dialogue will generally appeal to younger audiences, thanks to some pun-infused lines. But if you can manage to forgive the game for that, you won't have to deal with too many other disappointments.
Looks like I need to order some.
If you're one of the big fans of Farmville on Facebook or Harvest Moon, Viva Piñata will not disappoint you. The same addictive quality from those two games has found a home in this one. As you progress through the game and expand your garden, you eventually begin to see the wide variety that Viva Piñata offers you. You always end up wanting to see if you can convince one of the other 60 species of piñatas to become a resident of your garden. In addition, you begin to try to challenge yourself to develop a fully functional ecosystem that could persist even without you forcing every move within your garden. Though the game has been out for over 3 years now, it still holds to the same quirky collectible attitude it shipped with. There are people who have overlooked the game because it isn't a bloody mess or a first-person shooter, but they really miss out on some of the simple fun that you can garner from Viva Piñata. Much later, now with prices dropped, it may be a good time to check out this game to see if there is something in it for you. That's Entertainment awards Viva Piñata a score of 9 out of 10. The concept is just to entice wayward